So what are some of the tips and tricks that professional traders use when looking at these momentum indicators to overcome some of the textbook problems that we have in them? After all, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't want to say, well, okay, there's some textbook problems, therefore all indicators are rubbish. There's obviously something in them that is useful. How do we discern what that something is and use it to our advantage? Well, let me explain. First of all, one of the things that I find very useful is the MACD will overrule the stochastic when the MACD is rising sharply. Let me explain what that means. Remember we said one of the problems with the stochastic was that it can be overbought for prolonged periods of time, that it can therefore give false signals because it could be going into overbought territory like this, and when it crosses beneath the signal line you might think, oh, this is a sell signal, when in actual fact it's going to go back up and stay above. Now the reason it does that is because the price is trending and the price is moving up and up and up, and we of course want to capture this type of trend. The problem with trying to capture this trend, if we only looked at this stochastic indicator, is that we see it giving all these false readings. And one of the rules that I use is if I see the MACD rising sharply, and by that I mean you've got a smooth upward trend in the signal line and in the MACD line, and then the signal line, which is the dotted red one, is quite distant from it. Both are moving upwards, not sideways or downwards. That's two different. Remember, the MACD can only go up, sideways or down, of course, but when they're both moving upwards and the dotted line is quite distant from it, as you can see all the way from here to at least we get until here, which is when it starts going sideways. Here we do have some question marks. Now I'll get to the issue of what we do when it's sort of showing some kind of questionable territory there, but for the first thing I want to do is say that what I would do is say, right, okay, let's say we were here, let's say we take this point here. First thing I do is look at the MACD and say, no, wait a minute, this is rising strongly, so I'm going to let it overrule the stochastic, which might suggest otherwise that we've got a sell signal because the stochastic is in overbought territory, moving lower, has crossed its %D line as well, which is the dotted line. All those things in consideration might otherwise have led me to sell. However, I'm looking at this and saying, no, look at the strength with which the MACD is moving. Okay, well what about something like this where the MACD has actually started to go sideways, if not a little bit lower, and we're not sure what's going to happen? We look at this and we see the stochastic has moved a bit lower, it's showing a negative divergence as well. What do we do about points like that? Well, there's a couple of things. That's when our money management kicks in, where, okay, we're not too sure because the MACD, as I said, is going sideways or a little bit lower rather than showing great trends. We've got a negative divergence, we've got the stochastic showing a sell signal, it's broken below its overbought territory, it's going lower, it's moved below its %D line. Look at all those signals that I mentioned, all the corroborations. If it's got all of those things going the wrong way with it, what do I do? Do I get out there? Well, no, as I said, this is where money management comes in, because what should happen is we should have moved our stop losses higher. Now, money management I tend to discuss more in the swing trading CDs, in the how to invest better CDs, but let me cover some of the basic points here. You see, if we're looking at that point there, then the exit point is going to be one of two things. Either you already had a predefined take profit level, because when you got in, and for argument's sake, let's say you got in around here, you already had a predefined profit level where you thought there was a price resistance and that would be a good point to exit, or you'd have a rising stop loss, which would go maybe like this. Now, where are you going to put that stop loss? Well, I call it a stop loss, but it's actually a take profit level. Where are we going to put it? Well, several rules I have depending on how nervous I'm feeling with the markets. One of which might be I'll take half the profits if the price makes a 1 or a 2-day low, and I'll take the other half of the profits if it makes a 3-day low. In other words, I'm willing to give it some downward room, but I'm going to limit it. Another common rule that I use is if the price fails to make a new daily high, then I'll exit if it makes a low relative to the previous day. Now you might want to write these down. What I'm saying is none of these are gospel, but they try and get me out near the top as much as possible. Now if you look here, price hasn't made a new daily low, hasn't made one there, and then it starts rising. So actually, with this, we were fine. And our money management rule alone probably would have only told us to exit around here. Look at how close that is to the day's high, because that's the point at which it made a new one-day low. Now, normally I don't keep it as tight as a one-day low because the prices can often dip a little bit, as you can see here. And even then, the MACD was going sideways. Price can dip a little bit, doesn't necessarily mean much. So I might exit half a position or keep it just simply at a 2-day low for exiting a half and a 3-day low for exiting everything else. So in this occasion, depending on how scared I was feeling, I might have exited half the position because it's a 1-day low, or I might have kept it at a 2-day low and then continued higher onwards just to ensure I stay in the trend. And as I say, the exit rule will depend upon just how scared I'm feeling about the markets. So quite a lot in this that we just discussed. Remember, feel free to play it again just so you get the lessons which are in there as well.